Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to day 3 of Booktober. If you haven't seen my other 2 Booktober videos yet, basically I'm posting a cozy bookish related video for the first 7 days of October, so subscribe if you don't want to miss those. In today's Booktober video, we are going to go through my tried and true book recommendations to get you out of a book slump. But before we get into that, I do want to apologize for my voice again. I am still getting over my little cold, but I have my Breathe Easy tea here that will hopefully help me, breathe easier and sound a little less annoying. With that out of the way, let's talk book slumps. Nobody likes them, sometimes we even dread them, but when they come around, you kind of just have to ride that wave until it passes. I've heard some people say that what helps them get out of a book slump is literally just taking a break from reading, and honestly that makes a lot of sense, but unfortunately I'm not someone who ever stops reading. I finish a book and then go right to the next one every single time. So if you're someone like me, these are my recommendations to help you get out of that book slump. My first category of recommendations is YA mystery/thrillers. I have 2 here. This is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and this one's A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I feel like you guys have probably heard of these books because they're very highly recommended in the booktube community, but it's for a good reason. I recommend this kind of book if you're trying to get out of a reading slump because they're simply so easy to read. Plus, they make you not want to stop reading because you want to know what's gonna happen at the end. And they're not too scary or anything like an adult mystery or thriller. This one is about a group of teenagers who are recruited by the FBI to come and help them solve cold cases because they all have very unique talents. Like, one girl is really good at lying and detecting lies, one girl is really good at reading people, stuff like that. So basically, all these kids come together, there's a great found family, and they solve those cold cases together. Similar to Criminal Minds vibes, if you like that. This is about a girl named Pip who is British. Didn't know she was till I watched the show that's on Netflix. But basically, she has to do a final project for school and she decides to do it on this murder case that happened in her town, I think a few years ago. Someone was framed for the murder, but Pip does not believe that they were the actual killer. So she takes it upon herself to uncover so many details that had previously been looked over in the case. So if you're in a situation where every time you pick up a book, you just want to put it down, you can't force yourself to read, maybe this would do the trick. Okay, my next category of recommendations is memoirs. This is one of my favorites. It's Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. If you're in a reading slump and you want to read a memoir, I really recommend listening to the audiobooks because oftentimes memoirs are read by the author. Like this one is, I know Julia Fox reads her audiobook. I listened to that and that was really good. Same with Jeanette McCurdy. But sometimes if you're in a reading slump, you kind of just need to mix up the method in which you are reading. Instead of forcing yourself to read a physical book, maybe just listen to an audiobook. Or honestly, even sometimes if you have a Kindle, sometimes reading on a Kindle will switch it up nicely. Dolly Alderton is, I believe, she's an author, a screenwriter, and a journalist. Okay, yeah, I thought her profession was being a journalist. But basically, her memoir follows honestly her whole life and her perception of love through every phase of life. I love listening to it because I think she has very funny, self-deprecating humor. And I loved listening to all of her crazy stories about her gallivanting through London as a teen and a girl in her young 20s. This book is also so beautiful and holds such a special place in my heart. I think the true love in Dolly Alderton's life were her female friendships, and that's something that's very important to me as well. So I love that about this book. Yeah, but I feel like if you are typically a fiction reader like me, a memoir is a nice way to mix it up if you're kind of looking for something different to get you out of your reading slump. And going off of that, my next recommendation is actually a nonfiction book, which is kind of crazy. I'm a fiction girl through and through. I think I've only read 3-4 nonfiction books this year, and the majority of them have been memoirs. But I recently read The Art Thief by Michael Finkel, and this is, like I said, a nonfiction book about, I actually don't know how to pronounce his name, Stefan Breitweiser, I think, maybe? Stefan basically was and is the most prolific art thief of all time. And the way Michael Finkel writes his story makes it kind of feel like a fiction book, the way everything unfolds. I feel like, honestly, I was drawn to this book, and this is embarrassing, because I'm a Julian Hates from Magnolia Parks universe lover, and I saw The Art Thief, and I was like, it's giving Julian Hates. I think the only similarity between Julian and Stefan is that they're both art thieves, but I found this to be such a page turner because I wanted to know how he was going to commit his next crime, if he was going to get caught, what was going to happen. And it really gave heist vibes, almost like you're watching one of the Ocean's movies. So if you are typically a fiction reader and you're looking for something to switch up what you typically read, I definitely recommend this book. Also, how cool is it? I got it, I think it's a Barnes & Noble exclusive. All right. Our next category of recommendations is just a little easy romance. Because sometimes when you're in a reading slump, you just want something that's super easy to follow along with, Nothing too crazy, nothing too deep. Not to say that this one doesn't have depth, because it does. I feel like in order for me to like a book at all, it has to have some kind of depth. This book is about Brianna and Jacob, who are both doctors. They both have big struggles in their life. Brianna's brother is waiting for a kidney transplant, and Jacob also really struggles with anxiety. When Jacob transfers to Brianna's hospital, they get off on a really bad foot, which results in Jacob actually writing her letters because he's like kind of too scared to talk to her in person because they got off on such a bad foot. But yeah, moral of the story, if you're looking for a genuinely good romance book that is also super easy to read and will hold your attention, I really recommend Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I honestly would recommend all of her books, just in particular this one. This is the most recent one I've read. I think a lot of Ali Hazelwood's books would also be good for this category, particularly Love Theoretically. I read that book at the beginning of the year and loved it. Okay. My final recommendations may be controversial, but I had to include them because they're what got me out of a reading slump. And they are these two books right here. I feel like this could be controversial because if you're in a reading slump, you probably don't want to start a series. But I feel like what pulls me out of a reading slump sometimes is a new series that I can become utterly obsessed with, particularly one like ACOTAR that has like an amazing found family and characters you can be obsessed with. I read the ACOTAR series last fall, I think honestly around this time last fall, and it ripped me right out of a reading slump. I read all of these books in like, I want to say a month or two. It might not pull you out of a reading slump, especially this first book, because a lot of people don't love the first book in comparison to the whole series, but it helped me, so I have to recommend it. If you happen to live under a rock and don't know what this series is about, basically it follows the main character, Farah, who is a 19-year-old girl who kills a wolf in the woods. She lives in this very small cabin with her two sisters and her dad. The wolf that she kills turns out not to be a wolf, it turns out to actually be a fae, and this results in a fae coming in, bursting down her door and taking her away to live in the fae realms, and then the rest unfolds from there. This book right here is the first book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, and I read the entire trilogy over Thanksgiving weekend last year, mainly because I'm a Jax stan. But this trilogy follows Evangeline, whose like love of her life is about to marry her sister. She's absolutely heartbroken and devastated over this, so she makes a bargain with a fate, which is something in their world that you are supposed to never do. And she becomes tied to this fate, and their story unfolds from there. I feel like I just have to recommend these series because they're two of my favorite series ever. All right, those are all of my recommendations that will hopefully help you get out of a reading slump. If you're in a reading slump right now, I'm so sorry. It's the worst to not feel like you're enjoying the books that you're reading, but the thing about reading slumps is they always end. So maybe one of these books can help you out. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow for day 4 of Booktober. Bye!